finish up the last half hour of the South Jersey Sports Report. Coming at you live at 10 a.m. is The Locker Room with Billy Schweim. Also going to have Atlantic City boys basketball tonight at 8 p.m. versus Washington Township in the South Jersey Group 4 semifinals right here on 97.3 ESPN. Right now, let's welcome in the Oak Man, John O'Kane, Press of Atlantic City wrestling reporter. What's up, Oak?
Dave, thanks for having me, man.
No problem, man. You know we love talking some wrestling here on the South Jersey Sports Report.
Absolutely. I look forward to it every week.
Gil's all about basketball, but hey, I gotta work some wrestling in there. You know, they got a pretty rabid fan base here in South Jersey.
Absolutely, and rightfully so. There's no better fan base in sports.
A place you're very familiar with, Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City. You were there all night last night, and you got about a 17-hour day scheduled for today.
give or take an hour or two. It does seem like 17 hours.
Give or take a half an hour.
This whole weekend, my wife refers to herself as a wrestling widow.
Yeah, she's probably happy to have you out of the house for the whole weekend.
Exactly. She just has to make it sound good. That's absolutely right.
Give us some of your thoughts. We had Josh Friedman on earlier from the Daily Journal and the Courier Post, giving us some inside information from some of the teams around Cumberland and Gloucester areas. And I want to get your take on some of the guys from the Cape Atlantic League as well as Ocean County area. Prevailing thoughts from the first night. What'd you come away with?
Yeah, it's funny. Like every year is a little bit different with the individual state tournament. I mean, it's the best of the best. So I mean, there's no real surprises. We kind of knew going into the year. There was Pat Darcy from Holy Spirit graduated, C.J. Lafagola from St. Joseph graduated. Darcy won a state title. Lafagola finished second. Those guys are kind of blue chippers, so to speak. Everybody knew they were going to make a run at a state title. This year, I kind of said I don't want to say it's necessarily a down year because we had some great teams. St. Augustine, Buena Regional, Southern Regional, Egg Harbor Township had a good season. Sagami had a nice year. Millville. We had a lot of pretty strong teams, a lot of solid teams. But there wasn't really that kind of individual blue chipper, world beater, so to speak. So we kind of knew maybe individually it was going to be a little bit of a lean year. I remember when one of my first years at the paper, Mac Mancuso and everything, won a state title. I believe that was 2007 from Holy Spirit. After that, we went on a little bit of a drought too. I don't think we had another state champ for 6-7 years until Jack Clark a few years ago ended up breaking that drought. We have some finalists and things like that, but this kind of thing happens. So. Jim Brady, we've got 3 guys in the quarterfinals. That's a little bit of a low number, but we'll see if one of these 3 guys can get into that final.
Yeah, definitely a pretty good night for the prep. They had 5 guys advance to states, and 2 of them are in the quarterfinals, Jim Brady and Nick Clark, younger brother of Jack Clark. What do you think their chances are? Obviously, Nick Clark has a very tough road today. Going up against the guy he's facing in the quarterfinals, and Brady, he could make a run into the finals if he wrestles well.
Absolutely, really nice night for the prep. Not only did those two, there's 2 of our 3 guys into the corners, but Reed White, Dylan Taylor also won pre-quarterfinal matches. I'm forgetting somebody. I'm going to get beat up, but yeah, Reed
Jose Tabora.
Jose Tabor, yeah, he had a tough match. He had a bye. That's right. You're absolutely right. He had a bye into the pre-quarters. He had the freshman phenom from Bergen Catholic. Everybody, I remember there was a big story in the Star Ledger about him over the summer coming into his high school year. He was the number 1 ranked wrestler and football player coming into high school. It was almost like a college recruitment process, deciding on whether he was going to go to Blair or Bethlehem Catholic, all these kind of big-time private schools. He ends up at Bergen Catholic. He wins a close decision against Deborah, but yeah, Nick Clark, a lot of people forget. He made the decision. He actually wrestled 170 pounds last year as a junior. A lot of people forget he made that decision to come down to 160. Thought it would be a little bit of a better weight for him, more natural in terms of, being competitive and that kind of thing. So, and it looks like it's paid off. You're right. He does have a tough road. He's got Kyle Beerdumpful from Don Bosco Prep, a returning state champion who's ranked 5th or 6th in the country. I think I saw he's going to be going to Harvard to wrestle next year. Brady's up at heavyweight. He's the only area guy to get a number 1 seed. He likes his bracket. He had a close win last night against Brick Memorial's Chris Hayes, who, like him, is going to be playing Division I football next year. He knew that was going to be a tough matchup. Hayes hasn't been wrestling all that long, but is just strong as an ox, built like an absolute tank. So he knew that was going to be close. But like he said, there's no style points this time of year. 1-0 is great. That's a beautiful thing. But, yeah, he's got the freshman, Zach Delvecchio from South Plainfield, and look for Brady to make a run into that final and maybe give Matt Carenni from Holy Cross a run.
Yeah, that would be a really interesting final if Brady's able to make it through there. How about some of these Southern Regional guys?
Yeah, tough night for those guys last night. And, again, kind of going back to what we said with the area, individuals versus team kind of thing. Southern Regional wasn't an amazing team this year because they had, hammers and state champion contenders. They were an amazing team because they had 14 and really then some. I mean, they had 14 really strong, tough wrestlers in every weight class. They were tough to match up with. They were tough to bump guys away from. It's not a knock on those. I think I get the impression from Coach Stout up there at Southern that they'll take that kind of team every year. Peyton Blauvelt, he had a tough loss there. He was winning by a point against Bradley Dobzhansky from Delphi. Everybody knows the Dobzhansky clan. A lot of great wrestlers there. He was winning by a point, ends up losing by a point there in the last 20, 30 seconds of the match. That was a tough one. But, yeah, those guys, nothing to sneeze at, what they've accomplished. Sending 4 to states, I know there's no moral victories this time of year, but they did send 4 guys to states, which coming out of Region 6 is no easy task.
Talking with John O'Kane from the Press of Atlantic City. Does a great job covering high school wrestling throughout the winter. John, Egg Harbor Township had a tough night as well, and those guys realized that you got to wrestle 6 minutes. I mean, and it's such a tough ask for guys like Terrell Coleman and Connor Augustino, who both had leads going into the third period, but ended up dropping their matches. Dietrich Trumbauer, he was up against an absolute monster, so he can't hang his head too much about that loss. That kid was incredible. But these guys realizing how tough it is to even win a match once you get to states.
Yeah, that just goes to show you. You're absolutely right. I mean, Egg Harbor Township, Terrell Coleman was kind of a heartbreaker, but you see that every year. I've seen worse. I've seen guys winning by 12, 13, 14 points and get pinned. It happens. That's why you wrestle to the buzzer. Tough break, though, for Coleman. I know he was upset. He was up 4-0. Gets cradled. Guy had it locked up real tight. Couldn't squirm out of it. Ends up getting pinned there. And Agostino, I mean, he, no surprise, he knew he was going to have a tough match. Him and Frank Fortino from Haddonfield, those guys met in the finals of the, it seems like just a week ago, but those guys met in the finals of the Art Marinelli Christmas tournament on December 30th. And people remember, went to triple overtime, sudden victory, or ultimate rideout, rather. And Fortino was called for the slam in the that period there. It was kind of, some people thought it was, some people thought it wasn't, but Agostino came away with a tight win. You knew that was going to be a one-point swing one way or another. Agostino wrestled really well, and I spoke with him the night before the tournament. He said his important thing was to score first, which he did. He went out there, stuck to the game plan, scored the first takedown, which is what he was going for. But unfortunately, with about 5-6 seconds left, Fortino was able to come down with a the game of inches. He was able to barely get it in near the circle to win the match there by a point. Tough loss for Agostino.
How tough is it for these guys when you lose your first match on Friday night? You can still wrestle all the way back to third, but you're talking about to do that, you have to win, 6-7 matches in a row, right?
Exactly. And, you say meat grinder, but that doesn't even really do it justice. I mean, it does happen. I know we spoke briefly last night, and I was telling you, Tom Pakalakua, I remember a great name. I'll remember that name forever. Amazing guy from Pinelands, really tough dude. I believe he's up wrestling at Stevens now, had a solid freshman campaign. He lost on that Friday night. He had a brutal first-round matchup. I forget exactly who he wrestled, but he had, state place winner type. It was his first time down, didn't have a whole lot of criteria. He loses. He comes back, starting Saturday morning, and he did. He reeled off 6-7 straight wins, and he wrestled his way all the way back to third place. To me as a coach, obviously, as a college coach, you'd love to have those state champs and blue chipper types, but if I got a guy that's, willing to go down there and that meat grinder come out with 5-6 wins, that's a special kid. That's the kind of kid that can win on the college level because it's a grind all the time. And I do remember speaking with Tom on the after he finished third, and you could tell he was beat up. He had, bruises and all kinds of war scars, so to speak. It can be done, though. And that's only been the last few years. It used to be you lost in the prelims, you were done. But I guess, some people drive down 3 hours from High Point, get pinned in 14 seconds, and they're in the highway at 6 o'clock on Friday night, headed back up north. So I guess that got a little tiresome. So now you're allowed to wrestle back from the prelims, and it makes it exciting. Like I said, obviously it's been done, so there's a reason for it.
John, real quick before we let you go, if Nick Suriano from Bergen Catholic wins out and wins his next 3 matches and gets his 4th state championship, is he the best ever in South Jersey history? Or New Jersey history, I should say.
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I'm a little bit of an old school guy. It's so tough to tell, and I'm not even remotely trying to knock him because what he's done is beyond incredible. It goes beyond him possibly finishing 159-0. He's only been taken down once in 4 years. That's just unbelievable.
It's sick.
If you really look at how many points and tacks and pins he's had, it's just out of this world. But I will say, I'm not knocking him whatsoever. It's tougher for a bigger guy to do what he's done. There's a reason you haven't seen a 220-pound guy go 159-0 because when you're a freshman, you're wrestling against grown men. Some of those guys come up driving a school bus to the matches. So it's a little bit different when you're down at 126 pounds. Again, not even remotely trying to knock him because he is an incredible wrestler. I wouldn't be surprised if he wins multiple national titles, multiple All-American status at college. But I still kind of go with Damian Hahn, Pritzloff, some of the older, bigger guys that were just absolute animals. But Suriano's absolutely in my top 5, if not my top 1 or 2.
Now, obviously different weight classes, but how long could you last on the mat against Suriano? What's the over-under? 40 seconds?
These days, I might have to cut a couple pounds to get down to heavyweight, but I still think Suriano decks me in about 15 seconds.
I think I could last about 12, probably.
Yeah, I was going to say, somewhere in that range.
He'd get the double underhook, and I'd be counting ceiling lights.
I was going to say, absolutely, counting ceiling tiles, absolutely. I'm with you. Suriano's I hate to sound like I'm that old guy, walking uphill in the snow both ways, but Suriano's an absolute monster. He's the biggest 126-pounder I've ever seen, and he's got the technical skill to go with it. He's not just out there out-muscling people. The kid is unbelievable in every position. Amazing wrestler.
Good stuff, Oak. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. We'll catch up with you soon, buddy.
Absolutely. If you need me, I'll be in the gallows there at Boardwalk Hall.
You got it. Thanks, Oak. Appreciate
Stay
it.
safe.
That's John O'Kane from the Press of Atlantic City. This time every week, at least during the wrestling season, we catch up with him and get his insights on high school wrestling.